Hi, I'm Heather Isley. I am the lead Scrum Master here at Cherwell, and I wanted to introduce you to agility. Agile and the methodologies, the most popular of which are Kanban and Scrum specifically, and just give you a basic overview of that. Scrum and Agile in general are very easy to understand, but they're hard to master. So this will just serve as a general introduction to the philosophy and some of the main methodologies. A long time ago, project management was done with a methodology that's currently come to be known as waterfall. The reason that we call it waterfall, as you can see, is that it happened in stages. So first we would do all of our analysis, and then we would do our design, and then we would, and so we would pass one piece of work onto the next piece of work, and it was not iterative. The first time we would deliver any piece of value was at the very end of the project. QA was always the last thing, and it didn't always end up happening in a timely fashion so that changes could be made. So as we go on, I will introduce you to some of the reasons that that waterfall generally didn't work and why there was a need for something new. So the truth about waterfall projects, it's not pretty. 14% of waterfall projects were generally deemed successful. And this is with the standard waterfall methodology. 57 were considered challenged, and 29% were outright failures. And they did some analysis. The Standish group did some analysis on why that was. So here's why waterfall projects tended to get into trouble. There are some top reasons that the Standish group discovered. The first one was incomplete requirements. You would spend a lot of time scoping up front, and then you would get to the end and realize that you had forgotten some things that you really wanted to deliver, or you had lost track of those between the initial discussion with the stakeholders and when it was actually delivered to a customer. Frequently, those two things did not match up from a scope perspective. It lacked user involvement, and that's a big problem when you guess what the user wants and then you deliver what you think the user wants. All of this time and money has been spent, and you may not actually hit what the user really needs. 10% was lack of resources. You may not have the time or the money or the skill sets involved that you would need to actually deliver that piece of value to the customer. Unrealistic expectations. You promise the moon, and when you delivered less than that, it was deemed as a failure. Lack of executive support. So in the middle of this big long project, maybe you choose your VP changes or your CIO changes, and all of a sudden their understanding of what the customer needs may change. So you could flush all of that work and have to start from scratch. Challenging requirements and specifications. So they would deliver this whole scope document to the team that was going to deliver the product, and you'd have to sit down and read a giant novel of technical scope before you could actually begin working. Some of them were not well understood by the entirety of the team. So if you have a QA person that's just trying to make sure that it meets the user's requirements and it's not buggy, and you're writing to an architect's level, sometimes that can be really tricky to communicate in a big document. Lack of planning. So generally the first thing that would go out the window, and the thing that was very important to get right, was when that poor business analyst, the BA, would go and try and gather all that scope, and they would always get cut short. The people who needed to make decisions would not be available, things like that, and so the planning wasn't complete before you started. Or they just didn't need it any longer. They would get to delivery and realize that there's no market out there for that product anymore because it went on so long. So these are the most common reasons why waterfall projects would fall short. So a bunch of crazy people got together in a room and decided there must be a better way. So they came up with Agile. Agile with a little a. Agile it's a philosophy. It's not really a particular tool set. It's just the way that we should be thinking about projects differently in a modern day. So as we uncover better ways to do our work and to deliver product, the things on the left of this slide are the most important things. The stuff on the right is important too, but the stuff on the left is really the more critical. If you must sacrifice one for the other, you should sacrifice the things on the right for the things on the left. So let's talk about those. So we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So if it's not serving the teams that are actually creating the product, we're probably doing it wrong. That's what agility would tell you. Processes and tools are great, but they should be in service to the people and the teams. The next one, working software over comprehensive documentation. Documentation can be a part of the product, particularly here. Our documentation team does provide part of the product that we supply to our customers. But the working software is what's really important. So if we're not delivering software, we're not delivering value. So that's why we must prioritize that over comprehensive writing. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. We want that dialogue to be open with our customers. What do you need now? What's the most important thing for you to have now? Instead of, well, you told us that you wanted this, 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 and this, so here it is delivered, whether it's still of value to you or not. So the contract is important, but only insofar as it's still serving our customers. Responding to change over following a plan. So we need to be able to be tactical in how we approach our work. If we are married to a set of steps that we want to take to accomplish something, we're not being agile because we can't stay up with the market. We can't keep up with the market demand because we're too entrenched in what we believe is important. We have to be able to turn on a dime and change what we're doing. So there again, there's value in the stuff on the right, but the stuff on the left is what's really crucial. They also, these crazy people that got together and designed agility, came up with these 12 Agile principles. Very important. You can find all of these things out on the Agile Manifesto website. We'll provide you a link there. So the 12 principles are customer satisfaction through early and continuous software delivery. The first thing we want to do is get software in the customer's hand, and we want to do that quickly. And that is how we get our most valuable piece of feedback, which is the customers interacting with our product. We want to accommodate changing requirements through the development process. So the way we do that is once we get that product in the customer's hands, we elicit feedback and we welcome it. We're happy to hear it because that means we can change trajectory very quickly. We can fail fast. And then we can deliver the next most valuable thing very quickly if we are not stuck on a set of priorities. Frequent delivery of working software. So if the more rapidly we deliver, the more rapidly we get feedback, and that's how we stay ahead of market demand. Collaboration between the business stakeholders and the developers throughout the project. So one of the things that we really need is the product representation, which is really the voice of the business, has to stay in close contact with the people that are actually building the system. And that's how we don't have to focus too much on documenting what we're doing. We just make sure that the business and the development teams are hand in hand and that they understand each other very well. We support, trust, and motivate the people who are involved. So this is sometimes one of the hardest things to get right, and it's because we're used to being directive in our nature in project management. So we tell people what we want them to do, how we want them to do it, and when we want them to do it by, right? And we can negotiate on one of those, but not all of them. The important thing is to say, here's what I need. You tell me how you're going to give it to me and when you can give that to me by. So really, it's a lot more of the emphasis is put on delivery that is a team commitment and less on the demand. So the business tells you what they want, and the teams will tell you how and when. We enable face-to-face interactions whenever possible. Ideally, this is done literally face-to-face. So much of our interactions happen through facial expressions, tone, hand gestures, whatever. Those things are the intangible things that you can't get in an email or a scope document. So we want to enable that face-to-face interaction, even if it's not direct. If we use video, this video, for instance, I'm communicating a lot more to you than just what's on this deck. So the face-to-face interactions are far more valuable than anything you could write down. Working software is the primary measure of progress. So if we are not providing something of value, then we're not really making progress. So take all of these things I'm telling you and put them on the shelf If we're not producing something of value to our customers, we're not really developing anything really meaningful. Agile processes to support a consistent development pace. If you do Agile right, then you should be able to keep up that pace indefinitely. We call them sprints in Scrum, but you should not be winded. You should not be working weekends. You should not be up at 3 a.m. trying to get that last bug done. You should be able to keep up that pace indefinitely, and that's what the processes are there to help you do. Attention to technical detail and design enhances agility. So when we interact with our subject matter experts, our architects, our business people, understanding the detail, the level of detail that's required will enable us to move faster. We address those in technical design sessions up front. We do that through a smart development of a product backlog and things like that I'll show you in just a little bit. Simplicity. You want to develop just enough to get the job done right now. Technical people love to overthink things. They over-design, they overthink, they want all of the answers up front. That's the old way. Now, all we need to know is what is the minimum it's going to take to get this done. So while we do like to refactor code while we're in there, while we do like to clean up and leave things a little better than when we found them, the ultimate goal is to get the value out the door. So we have to definitely focus on simplicity of delivery. And if we have to do more work later to clean that up, that's okay too. Self-organizing teams encourage great architectures, requirements, and designs. So if the teams are self-organizing, they're allowed to set their own pace. They're allowed to solution how they work together by themselves without interference, without too much oversight. Those self-organizing teams will actually end up coming up with better ways to interact than we could possibly direct them. So that's why a self-organizing team is generally going to give you your best bang for the buck. Regular reflections on how to become more effective. We absolutely have to think about how we're interacting with each other and think to ourselves, could this be done better? Is there some rework in the process? Is there waste in the process? Is there something that we could pull out that would make this more streamlined? Is there something we could add, a tool, an automation, something that would make how we work together better? The best way to do that is in discussions among the team.